We continue our story with Black Arachnia and Starscream, both explaining how they want this deal to go down. They want to use these Insecticons to test them out, but Black Arachnia doesn't know anyone that would be suitable. But Starscream smiles, a little twistedly, and says, "Oh, he has a very good idea on who he could use." And so he transmits his own signal. This is where we go to the Autobot base, and this signal is picked up. We'll say all the other Prime members are kind of busy at the moment, so this is where Tailgate, who I think comedically will be on a high chair, actually relays this to Jazz, and Jazz, without any hesitation, actually states that he's going without him, and Tailgate simply states, well, wait a minute, shouldn't you like bring backup? Maybe I could get Optimus, or maybe me and Arcee, I can go and get her. But Jazz simply states no. He wants to go at this alone. He doesn't want anyone else to interfere with him. And so transforms and drives off through the space bridge. Meanwhile, at the Decepticon warship, everything's going swimmingly for once in the what if. And this is where we actually see Megatron exit the medical bay, now fully repaired from obviously his last encounter where his fusion cannon was destroyed and everything, and well, everything kind of didn't go well for him. And obviously the first one to notice this is Megatron's D1 Glazer, Lugna. He gets on his knees talking about how his glorious King Megatron is back up and running, and that how he is ready to serve him and everything. And Shadow Striker simply palms himself in the face and asks him to please just shut up. Please, for the love of God, shut up. And this is where Soundwave actually walks towards Megatron and actually shows him a transmission from Starscream. And Megatron simply smiles that now he is going to finally be able to get his revenge on Starscream. However, this is where Shadow Striker actually points something out to Megatron, that they noticed a few Insecticons rallying lately, and she thinks that it may have to do with a particular Insecticon herself. And so Knockout actually looks at Megatron, and Megatron looks at him, and he says, "I'll get working on it immediately, Lord Megatron." Meanwhile, Jazz has finally made his way into the cave area, or pretty much in the same area in the same episode as Crossfire, where Megatron originally fought the Insecticon. And this is where he hears a voice stating that, "Wow, you didn't tell me he was this cute, Starscream." And Jazz looks up to see Black Arachnia. And she says, "Oh, hi, you're the one that Starscream wanted to lure out here. In all honesty, I hope you survive so I can keep you as probably my own little plaything later." To which Jazz simply states, "Well, this is, kind of awkward. I guess I'm not too used to this by right now. But where's Starscream?" To which Starscream walks out and he says, "Oh, right here. But right now, Autobots, you've been nothing but a thorn in my side. I mean, sure, I killed your partner, but right now, you have your own little problem." And this is where Hardshell and two other Insecticons surround Jazz. And he simply asks, "It's gonna be like that, isn't it?" To which Starscream says, "Oh yes, definitely." And so Jazz simply states, "Bring it," and floors Hardshell first with a super powerful blitz punch. Like, he straight up blitzes and punches him into a wall, and this actually like knocks Hardshell out very quickly. And keep in mind, he's kind of fighting in a more bloodlusted like state, because he does want Starscream dead. He's let him live for far too long at this point. And so this is where the next Insecticon actually utilizes mandibles to try to like attack Jazz, or his like insect like arms. And so Jazz simply disarms it and rips it off, and then guts that very same Insecticon with him. And Black Arachnia is actually swooning over this. She's like, "Ugh, such a fine warrior as well. Maybe I had the wrong idea. Perhaps we could have convinced him to join us, Starscream." And Starscream's like, "Absolutely not." And this is where Jazz then unloads his, well, crescent cannon and just simply sprays down the other Insecticon until it's pretty much just riddled with holes and offline. And Starscream says this isn't going anywhere. Why isn't he dead? He should be dead at this moment. Why isn't he? And this is where Jazz pretty much stands over the last Insecticon, the one that he gutted, and pretty much just ends it right then and there. We can say he pulls out his spark. We can say he shoots him in the head. It's pretty much done for the Insecticon that he gutted. And he says, is that all you guys got? He's ready for more. And so this is where he doesn't notice Hardshell sneaking up behind him and stabbing him right through the side with his claws, calling the Autobot foolish. However, before Hardshell can finish him, he gets blasted right in his face. And this is where the rest of Team Prime appears. And, well, they begin to move around very quickly, getting into position and, well, everything else. And Optimus simply asks Jazz what was he thinking, going after Starscream alone like this and not even telling anyone. And this is where we actually see all of Team Prime, including Ratchet as well. I would say that they brought the kids back to the base so that Raph can handle the space bridge. And Arachnid walks over to him and simply states, you know I'm going to say it, right? And Jazz is like, don't say it. I really don't want to hear right now. And Arachnid's like, you know, I'm going to say it right now because you, and I thought I had issues here. And this is where she also hears Black Arachnia say, sister, it's been so long. Is this one yours? To which Arachnid turns into her more spider-like form and says, one moment, darling. Yes, this one is mine, my dear sister. How have you been? And I see you're still working with Decepticons. To which Black Arachnia says, well, you can never have too many friends or alliances, if you will. Meanwhile, as they pretty much conversate, and the Autobots are kind of looking like, okay, so we might have another ally, maybe? Ratchet actually begins working on Jazz, and he looks at him like, you know what? I'm not even going to say it. And Jazz is like, dude, look, you've prepared me from worse. What's different about this one? And to which Ratchet simply states, very well and very simply, you could have gotten yourself killed. You're one of the most valuable members of this team, and you were almost killed by your foolishness. Meanwhile, the sisterly bonding is pretty much reaching a new high, as well as with the Insecticon Hardshell simply stating, my liege, we are picking up a disturbance in our airspace. I think we should address this immediately. And so this is where gunfire actually begins to rain down. And this is where Tailgate says, oh crap. You know what? It's kind of expected at this point. And so it stops for a moment. And then the warship fully, descends onto the scene. And keep in mind, the Autobots pretty much kind of got out the way here. And Optimus is like, oh no. If this is what I think it is, we're in trouble. And Starscream is looking in fear himself, like, no, not now, not him. And so Megatron descends, along with Viacons, Dreadwing, and his glorious Glazer, Lugnut. And this is where Whirl pretty much points out, like, there are many things I'm willing to do, but this right here, this ain't it. So, Doc, can we leave? And this is where, he's kind of holding up Jazz at the moment. And Ratchet's like, right now, we need to figure out a better way to, I guess you could say, make their exit. And so Megatron walks past them, only looking at Optimus, and then at Jazz, who he kind of smiles at. But then he addresses Black Arachnia and says, I see you're up to your old tricks again. Into which Black Arachnia says, well, it's kind of hard to blame a girl for trying. Into which Megatron says, yes it is, but I like to thank you for my army. And this is where he presses a device and all the Insecticons both kind of just freeze for a minute, turn to Megatron, and then all surround him and bowing to him. Black Arachnia looks in absolute disbelief as she tries to use her mental powers to try and control the Insecticons, but she realizes it isn't working, and she says they need to figure out a way to escape. And Starscream says, I have a perfect idea on how to distract them, and shoots a missile into Black Arachnia's back, which catches everyone off guard as Arachnid uses her weapon to not only cushion her sister's fall, but to make sure she grabs him. And she says, Starscream, you'll pay for that. But Starscream simply says, yeah, maybe next time, but not today, as he transforms and flies out of there. Once again showing that this dude is absolutely untrustworthy. And this is where Optimus and the other Autobots kind of just look around at the Decepticons and Insecticons, and Optimus simply states, you have what you came here for, and so do we. We don't have to fight here today. And this is where Megatron simply states, where's the fun in that? He could end them all here and now. And Tailgate simply states, yeah, about that, we kind of expected you to do something like this. So he says, Arcee, if you don't mind. And she says, of course not. And well, she activates the polarity gauntlet and flings every Decepticon back against the wall or into a very clustered area. And so this is where Ratchet and Bumblebee both secure Jazz and get him out of there, returning back to Autobot base with the rest of them. Back in the Autobot base here, Arachnid, after making sure her sister was stabilized, simply states that, you know, I'm going to say I told you so. To which Jazz simply looks at her and is like, I told you not to say it. And Arachnid's like, you get yourself into trouble far more than even Tailgate over here. To which Tailgate is like, hey, I'm standing right here. And this is where Optimus simply looks at his second in command and states, you could have made the right choice, or the proper choice, and called us, Jazz. He understands that your loss for Cliffjumper and your desire for vengeance is great, but it cannot cost them their lives, or more of their friends. To which Jazz simply nods and understands it. To which Ratchet says, yeah, you better, because next time you get yourself in this situation, you're getting the worst repair bill in history. And this is where Black Arachnia simply states, well, since you guys saved my life, I'm sure I could repay you by telling you Starscream's location. And this is where we would go back to the Harbinger. Starscream simply returns, defeated, and in all honesty, just kind of like, another plan down the drain. Perhaps I can finish up these protoforms. And so he begins working on the protoforms yet again, toiling with them the best he can for right now. Almost finishing up his project as well here. However, this is where we kind of ended off here. As we go outside to where a space bridge opens and the Autobots step out, with Optimus bringing along with him Arachnid, Arcee, Whirl, and Bulkhead, stating to approach with caution. And that's where we're going to leave it off here today, you guys. Be sure to comment down below, like and subscribe and share with your friends, and let me know what you guys think about this chapter as well, and how I'm returning to some of this old format.